أعوذ بالله من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته. We'll continue discussing the last part of letter number 31 from Nahjul Balagha, where Imam Ali alayhi salam gives the final part of his set of 27 advices, where we had already covered about 11 of them. And so today we'll discuss about the 12th advice, where Imam says, إِذَا كَانَ الرِّفْقُ خُرْقًا كَانَ الْخُرْقُ رِفْقًا. And then the advice continues to رُبَمَا كَانَ الدَّوَاء دَاء. So إِذَا كَانَ الرِّفْقُ خُرْقًا كَانَ الْخُرْقُ رِفْقًا. Where leniency is unsuitable, then the unsuitable is leniency. Let us see what Allah says about leniency, how Allah is lenient in all his affairs. So in Usul al-Kafi, the Prophet says, "In Allah Rafiq." Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is lenient. Yuhibbu rifq, and he loves leniency. Fi amri kullih. In all matters, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves leniency because he is lenient. So because Allah is lenient, leniency is one of his attributes, and he loves leniency in all his affairs. So in the advice, Imam says, if leniency is unsuitable, then let the unsuitable be done. That will become lenient in that situation. Let us see further. So if Allah is Rafiq, if Allah is lenient, and he also loves leniency, then it is telling us to be lenient too. How? Because we've already discussed before, my goal in life is to adopt the divine attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and be like him. Because it says, تَخَلَّقُوا بِأَخْلَاقِ اللَّهِ. Mold yourselves to the attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So if Allah is Rafiq, it is telling me that I also need to be Rafiq in my endeavors. I also need to be kind and lenient in my relation with people. Or because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves rifq, yuhibbu rifq. So because he loves rifq, and my goal in life is to do what he loves, then that would also push me towards being lenient. Why? Because Allah loves leniency. So I want to do something that Allah is going to love. So I want to be lenient. Why? One, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala himself is lenient. And two, because Allah loves leniency, I want to do those things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves. So if Allah is lenient and he loves leniency, then why punishment? Why adhab? If he is lenient, why does he not just let everybody chill? Why does he not just let everybody be free? Why is there that concept of if you do this, you will get this punishment, and if you do this, there is this punishment? Why punishment? If he is lenient, he should, na'udzubillah, should he not just let everybody chill and do what they want to do, what they desire to do? Why should there be punishments? If Allah were to leave everybody free to do what they want, then would there be a smooth system around? No. Everybody would be doing what they want, and it would be a chaotic system. The smooth system that we see, where people respect one another, people have value for rights of others, people have regard for looking at how they're going to be treating other people around them, that would not be there, because everybody would be wanting to do what they want, and it would be a chaotic situation. So the concept of punishment, the concept of adhab, is that which establishes justice. If somebody was to behave so well, okay, and if somebody was to do what he wants, and end of the day the treatment to both of them is the same, would that be just? No. Because there are rules, and because the rules need to be respected, then there has to be justice, where consequences are met to people who violate those rules, and then only we can have a clean and smooth system running around. And end of the day, the final punishment, the punishment of the day of Qiyamah, is to cleanse and purify souls so they can enter Jannah with purified souls. Jannah is not a place of dirt and filth. So if people have gathered dirt and filth on their souls along the path, that dirt and filth needs to be removed, and then they can enter Jannah. So it's a rahmah. Even the azab is a rahmah. That is why in Surah Al-Rahman, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking about the verses of Jahannam, also He says, فَبِأَيِّ آلَاءِ رَبِّكُمَا تُكَذِّبَانِ, which of the bounties of your Lord are you going to deny? So even Jahannam is a bounty of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because if it were not for Jahannam, and if it was not for cleansing and purifying souls with little dirt there so that they can be purified and come out and then go and spend the rest of their lives in Jannah, then how would they enter Jannah? So that Jahannam is also a ni'mah from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the concept of punishment is there to make people abide by the system, make people live in harmony with others, make people respect the laws of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And yet, despite everything, if somebody has intentionally gathered dirt on his soul, and he has deeds which deserve him to go to Jannah, he has the concept of knowing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam, so his final place of abode has to be Jannah, but he has gathered rust over his soul which needs to be cleansed, then that Jahannam will purify him and allow him to enter Jannah. May Allah protect us and save us from all adhab, inshallah. So the part 1 of this advice, where Imam says, إِذَا كَانَ الرِّفْقُ خُرْقًا كَانَ الْخُرْقُ رِفْقًا, if where leniency is unsuitable, then the unsuitable is lenience. Sometimes we are so lenient, and yet we see that the effect of being lenient is not working well. So then you have to be, it is said, you have to be cruel to be kind. So it's unsuitable to be cruel under normal circumstances. But where kindness is not bringing the result that you desire, then you need to do something that is going to be bringing the desired results. And it might not look kind, but it is the leniency. It is your leniency. It is your kindness as a bottom line. We will come to that. So avoid being taken for granted. Don't be a doormat for anybody. Don't be so lenient that people think that, oh, okay, she will just take it, No, in that situation, then it is normally unsuitable to probably stand up and say, I'm not going to do this. But in some situations, you need to put your foot down. So learn to discern between situations. And where rifq is not working, then use khulq, then use the unsuitable to meet a desired result. Sometimes be cruel to be kind. So if there is a knife that a child is crying for, this definitely I'm not going to give the child a knife. Why? Because I know the child will get hurt, and the child will throw a tantrum, and he will start crying, and he will probably throw himself down because he wants the knife. But there's no way I'm going to give him that knife. And that at that moment, the child might see me as a cruel person. The child might hate me for not giving him the knife. But because I know that the knife is not good at that moment, there's no way I'm going to give it. So not giving him the knife is unsuitable for the child, but it is leniency from my part. It is rifq from my part. It is kindness from my part, even though the child does not see it. So wherever we are, we need to discern what is kindness and what is unsuitable. Now, for example, if I have a diabetic or a blood pressure elderly person under my care, there's no way I'm going to allow that person to excessively have sugar or salt. Why? Because I know that this is going to harm him. The person might not realize and might feel that she's depriving me of tasty food. But I am being kind to the person because I'm looking at her or his health. But the bottom line is kindness. So, and I keep saying this, the good part, sometimes the worst also, is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows our intentions. So if there is an elderly person and I am trying to take care of his or her health, and I do not allow him to eat lots of sugar or lots of salt, with the bottom line being kindness, that I want to care for his or her health, Nurun ala Nur. But if I'm feeling, let her suffer. So what if she wants to eat so much sugar? I mean, I'm not going to give her. I have that reason with me that she's diabetic. So inside my heart, it is not kindness. Inside my heart, I'm feeling, let her suffer. Let her cry for it. I'm not going to give it to her. So bottom line is not rifq. See, so if the bottom line is not rifq, that is not what the Imam is asking us to do, because it's not leniency, it's just pure harshness, malice, jealousy, hatred. Bottom line has to be kindness, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sees the innermost part of our hearts and our intentions. And part 2 of this advice number 12 is Rubama kana dawa da. So it says often. I've underlined the word often because I want to come to it, but in the later slide, cure is illness and illness is cure. So the illness is cure is not mentioned by the Imam. At least I don't see it here. Cure is illness. How can a cure become illness? How can dawa become sickness? Sometimes medicine can become sickness when you give the wrong dose. So if the dose is not correct, then it will turn into a sickness. This statement is connected to the previous statement about kindness and unsuitable. So if you are allowing kindness in a bigger dose, which is so kind, then people will take you for granted. So if you're bringing up children with so much leniency that if a child has to wake up for Fajr prayers and you are so lenient, oh my, she's so small and it is so cold, let her sleep. That's not leniency. You can't afford to be lenient where Sharia is concerned. So when the dose is wrong, then the medication turns into a sickness, because that child gets used to sleeping on and it's salah time, but it's okay. So that's a wrong dose of the medication, wrong dose of being kind, or misuse. So when I'm allowing one child to sleep, thinking that she's still small, so I have another one a year younger, that child is not baligh yet and is not getting any medication, but the child is learning through seeing around her what will be accepted when I grow up, what will not be accepted. So he is also being impacted with what I'm doing with another child. So absorbing, like Montessori says, 0 to 6 is the absorbent mind. The mind is absorbent and it absorbs everything like a sponge. So even though you are not administering the medicine on that particular child, but he is still absorbing it. So that's misuse of your medicine. Or a medicine is expired. A child has turned 15 years old and now I start using my medicine now. You need to wake up for morning prayers. You know, you are already old enough. Where was I when the child was 9? So the medicine is expired. There's already a sickness there. Or side effects of medicine. So when I use medicines which, when I try to use advices which are not necessary at whatever point, then it's going to have repercussions. Just like cancer medicine given to a cancer patient brings about undesired effects of vomiting and hair loss and this and that. In the same way, when I use kindness where it is not needed, that's misuse. When I use kindness where in one area it will work, but in another area it might bring side effects. It might bring about undesired results in other areas. So I've tried to be kind, thinking, this is at least she's doing this much, so I'm being kind. Then the child knows that she said at least she's doing this much, so the other things, if I don't know, it's fine. So those are the side effects, the repercussions of using a medication. So rubama kana dawa da. Sometimes medicine can become sickness itself. Sometimes people will take the advantage of leniency and misuse it. In that situation, the leniency as a medicine converts into pain. The medicine itself being lenient, now it becomes painful for the person who is lenient. Or sometimes a small disease leads us to big diseases. You give somebody a finger, yes, let me help you do this, and he catches hold of your hand. Every time he needs help, he's behind your back. Or rubama kana dawa, da, sometimes something you do thinking it is kindness, but it turns into a disaster. How? Your child wants to go out, for example, okay? So late at night, he comes back, and you think that you are being kind, so you are covering him up and telling him, shh, don't tell daddy you came this time, okay? So you're being kind, okay? Why? Because you feel in your understanding that you are being kind to the child, that you are preventing the child from being punished, you are preventing your husband from getting angry, but that is going to turn into a disaster. You thought you were being kind on your husband, you're being kind on your child, but that will become a habit and then it turns into a disaster. So sometimes kindness, the dawa, turns into a sickness itself. We nurture generations as parents. That dawa can be positive, it can be negative. If we are parents or grandparents, for everything that we do, there's a positive effect and a negative effect. We need to see what is going to bring a negative effect so we don't do those things. Anything and everything, something small, the phone is ringing and I tell the child, the very practical example, tell the child, mommy, tell the person on the phone, mommy is not at home. I've taught the child to lie. Yeah? Or if it is salah time and I do other stuff, I have taught my child that salah is not important. Or if it's eating time and I am moving around and eating, or I'm watching TV and eating, that's the message I have passed. Or if the child brings home letter from school and I read it and I say, alkane to daroj eid suje chhe. That's the impression I've given the child, that the school teacher is not important. So we are nurturing a generation as grandparents, as parents. We need to be careful of how we are bringing them up, what kind of dawa we are giving them. The 13th advice is وَرُبَّمَا نَصَحَ غَيْرُ النَّاسِحِ وَغَشَّ الْمُسْتَنْصِحِ. So here I will discuss the word rubama. Okay. Often the well-wisher, the translation says, often the ill-wisher gives correct advice while the well-wisher cheats. So this sounded a little weird, that an ill-wisher often gives correct advice. If he wishes ill, he wouldn't be giving good advice. That's why I started looking at the word rubama, and it does not mean often, as the translation says. It means perhaps, possibly, maybe, probably, potentially, likely, might be. So probably, sometimes it may happen that the ill-wisher will give you correct advice while the well-wisher cheats on you. It is possible. It's a probable thing. It can happen. It is likely to happen that an ill-wisher gives you correct advice while the well-wisher cheats upon you. وَرُبَّمَا نَصَحَ غَيْرُ النَّاسِ وَغَشَّ الْمُسْتَنْصِحِ. So there is possibility that someone who does not normally advise, it is not normal for that person to advise. Okay? Out of nowhere, that person would give you advice. It is possible. And someone who always advises you might end up cheating to you. Some people aren't loyal to you. They are loyal to their need of you. So all the time that they needed you, they were loyal to you. They were always giving you good advice. But once that need changed, then their loyalty also changed. So instead of advising you, they can cheat on you. So Imam is advising us that there's a possibility that someone who does not normally advise you, advises you. And it is also possible that someone who always gives you good advices cheats upon you. It is possible. So Imam is showing us respect, don't suspect. Respect everybody around you. Don't suspect. Use your intellect to guide you and to direct your emotions. So use your intellect whenever anybody talks to you. Even if it's a person who advises you normally, don't just take it. Think, use your intellect. Maybe this time he's cheating. And even if it is somebody who can never advise you, you've never expected him to come up and give you some good advice, don't shun him off. Listen to his words, because he might be having some value in what he is telling you. An ill-wisher can advise well. It always seems impossible until it is done. So there's a time when Shaitan advises Prophet Nuh alayhi salam. And one might be surprised, would Shaitan really advise Prophet Nuh? Why would he advise Prophet Nuh? So it's something strange. Shaitan is an ill-wisher, but he also advises well to Prophet Nuh alayhi salam. So when Prophet Nuh alayhi salam was coming off from his ark, Shaitan came up to him and he said, I want to advise you. I want to give you 3 advices. Why? Because you have saved me from a big task. It is my task that I have to pull people away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is like a magnetic force, and people are naturally attracted to that magnet. Okay? I'm just giving a metaphor. Allah has no body and is not a magnet. But just the way a magnet pulls iron, stuff made of iron towards it, it's natural. In the same way, human beings are naturally pulled towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Shaitan says, I have to use energy to pull them away from Allah, because naturally they are pulled towards Allah. So you all know, when you did dua that Allah should destroy everybody, everybody got destroyed. And now so there is nobody there for me to work upon, and I'm chilling, I'm relaxed, I don't have any work till there comes about a generation where I will start my work again. So because you did me a good turn, I need to give you an advice. So Prophet Noah says, okay, go ahead, tell me, what do you have to say? So there are two riwayat. I will say both of them because both of them are useful. In one, Shaitan says, beware of me when you are angry. Okay? Because I am closest to a servant when he is in one of these 3 situations. 1, in anger. So beware of me when you are angry, because I am closest to you when you are angry. Or beware of me when you rule between 2 people. When you're passing a judgment between 2 people, it may be 2 children, it may be your own offspring. Beware of me when you are ruling between 2 people, because I'm closest to a servant in that particular situation. Or beware of me when you are alone with a lady and there is no one else around. So when there are 2 non-mahrams together, the third one is Shaitan. So he says, beware of me in such a situation. Or as per another narration, Shaitan advises Prophet Nuh alayhi salam and he says, never exhibit arrogance, for it was because of this vice that I did not prostrate before Adam, and I was expelled from the presence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Why? Because I was arrogant. So never be arrogant. Stay away from greed. Why? Because it was due to this greed that Adam consumed the wheat and he was deprived of paradise, because of greed, because of wanting to live forever and being like angels. So it was greed that made him leave Jannah early. It is altogether another concept where we say that Adam was kicked out of Jannah. He was created for earth. Adam alayhi salam, as per the Holy Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when he sent the angels to bring dust from the earth, he said, Inni ja'ilun fil ardi khalifa. I want to place a khalifa on the earth. So Adam was created for the earth. He wasn't going to be living in Jannah forever. So coming down to earth was not a punishment. He was destined to come down to earth. But the process of having that fruit from a forbidden tree speeded up the fruit from a forbidden tree, or wheat from forbidden plant, whatever it was. Having eaten from a forbidden thing, it just sped up the process, and he came to earth faster than he would have if he had not done that action. Yeah. And the third thing Shaitan says is, distance yourself from envy, for it was because of this vice that Qabil killed his brother Habil and eventually became the cause of punishment. So these 3 things he advises to Nabi Nuh alayhi salam. An ill-wisher advising with good advice, where Nuh did not say, no, you can never advise me something well, I don't want to listen to you. There's sometimes we do that to people. When people want to say something, we say, no, tu nahi, please, tu nahi. So Imam Ali alayhi salam tells us, keep your minds open. Be broad-minded, be open-minded. Listen to everyone. Somebody wishing well can cheat on you, and somebody who never advises you can advise you. It is possible. Advice number 14, where Imam alayhi salam says, وَإِيَّاكَ وَالِاتِّكَالَ عَلَى الْمُنَى فَإِنَّهَا بِدَائِعَ نَوْكَ. Do not depend. Beware. Keep away from depending upon hopes. Why? Because hopes are the mainstay of fools. Even on the picture you will see it's written on the beach. So once the wave comes, the hope is washed away. Don't keep hoping on stuff to happen. You need to make it work, because just hopes is mainstay of fools. And what do we hope for? If you look at the beginning of the letter where we discussed 7 qualities of the Father and 14 of the Son, in the qualities of the Son, the Imam says, إِلَى الْمَوْلُودِ الْمُؤَمَّلْ مَا لَا يُدْرَكْ. I'm writing this letter to the son who hopes for that which he cannot achieve. Hope of living forever, hope of being entities like angels. Those are hopes that we are never going to achieve. So don't just rely on hopes, because it is mainstay of fools. Imam Ali alayhi salam says in sermon number 42 in the Nahjul Balagha, he says, Ayyuhan nas, O mankind. So this is not an advice just for us Shias. It's not an advice for Khojas. It's not an advice for Muslims. It's not an advice only for Imam Hassan alayhi salam, for example, or for the person to whom the letter was written to, or for you and I, because we have enjoyed the Ya Bunay, Ay Bunay, all along the journey of letter 31. He says, Ayyuhan nas, O mankind. Inna akhwafa ma akhafu alaykum ithnan. Surely what I fear for you most amongst all the fears that I have is 2 fears. So there are so many things that he fears for us, but the most that he fears are 2 things. What are they? Ittiba'ul hawa, acting upon your desires, watul al-amal, and having long extended hopes. So I might think, why is Imam afraid of me with these 2 things? But wherever I have a question of why, there is an answer that follows. So the saying continues. Imam says, فَأَمَّا اتِّبَاعُ الْهَوَى فَيَسُدُّ عَنِ الْحَقِّ. Because doing what your heart desires all the time turns you away from haqq, turns you away from the true path. وَأَمَّا طُولِ الْأَمَلِ فَيُنْسَى الْآخِرَةِ. And as for the long extended hopes, they make you forget your hereafter. So when you have the habit of doing everything that your heart desires, I feel like doing it, you do everything that you feel like doing, you turn away from truth. Why? Because you are not focused on the truth, you are focused on what your heart desires. In the same way, when you have long extended hopes and you are living on hopes, then you are just focused on reaching your hopes and getting what you hope for. So the purpose of creation, of working and treating today like today is my only day on earth and I'm not going to see tomorrow, so whatever work I want to do, I need to do it today, that focus is moved out of picture. Once the focus is moved out of picture, I don't even have the akhirah in picture. I'm just looking at my hopes and what I need to do and what I need to build and what I need to get to enjoy this transitional life. With that, we come to the end of today's session. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.